and welcome to the 11th episode of Slime Time, the official Dragon's Quest Dragon's Den podcast. This is Plattym3.
And this is Liamland. So we've been on hiatus for, I guess, a month and a half now. What have you been up to, Platty?
I've been doing a bunch of different things. I keep trying to play video games, but other than Cthulhu Saves Christmas, which was a lovely 5 to 6 hour awesome game, I've just been jumping around. Over Christmas, put in Grandia 2, which is one of my favorite non-Dragon Quest games ever, and then kind of forgot I was playing it after a week, and then started playing Puzzle Quest, just match 3 game. I'm going to be on an Earthbound podcast next week, and I'd never played Earthbound, so I did about a week and a half with that, got about 10 hours into it, and it's an odd game. I think if I'd played it in the 90s, I would have liked it, but it's a little... They've never remade that. Man, that game really could use a remake at this point.
Yeah, or a sequel. I mean, I've only played the first two, the NES, I guess it was translated as Earthbound Zero. Yeah, and regular Earthbound for the SNES. And yeah, they're fun. They are very strange. You're like fighting hippies with a kind of funky psychedelic background.
Oh gosh, those backgrounds. You know what? I think playing that at 10 o'clock at night, the backgrounds maybe were leading me to go to sleep a little bit more,
lulling you to sleep.
Lulling me to sleep.
Nice.
I saw the Ni no Kuni movie that came out. That was pretty good.
Cool. I started playing that a little bit. The DS version. We were talking about it over Christmas. I played a little bit of that.
Nice. And yeah, we'll talk about the news in a minute about the next video game movie to come out. But when it does come out, I can watch it now in my garage. That was the big thing I did over Christmas break. We've had an elliptical machine that's been out here for about a year and a half. I think I used it 8 times in a year and a half. My wife will round that down to 0, but no, I definitely made it on there about 8 times in a year and a half. But put a TV out here over Christmas break and got a spin bike that my parents don't use. And now my wife and I will come out here and we'll both exercise for about 45 minutes or take turns with the kids inside. And one of us come out here, and I think I've got in a good 15 workouts in January. So, hey, age 42, maybe it's time to get in a little bit of shape.
Nice. Yeah, I've been doing some of that myself, trying to get rid of the dad bod and all that. So yeah, so my wife's friends were over from Japan for Christmas. It was a pretty amazing time. One of them actually works in the graphics department that handled the Sonic redesign, which is pretty cool for the movie. She was really pleased to hear how much people preferred it to the original and everything. Oh, and then we moved earlier last month. We're renting a place along the Hudson River. And so it's a lot nicer than the old apartment that we had. And I'm home much, much faster. So that's always nice. There's also a really cool community center nearby with things like a gym and business center and actually a little small movie theater, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping to maybe watch Your Story in there if I could rent that out.
Nice.
All right. Well, we kept our guest waiting long enough.
All right. Live from the Dragon's Den, we have longtime Denizen, King Zenith.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, really looking forward to the podcast.
Yeah, welcome.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah. What does live from the Dragon's Den entail? He's actually in a den. He's actually in the Dragon's Den right now.
Well, then he might not be live for long, I guess.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Welcome. So can we start with some DQ news about what's coming down the pipeline? We've got both Dragon Quest Your Story with an English dub coming to Netflix streaming next week. I'm hoping we're also going to get the Japanese with English subtitles. And at the end of the month, we're getting Dragon Quest with the Dragon Quest of the Stars mobile release. Dragon Quest Tact was recently announced for smartphones in Japan. So now when a fellow fan says something dumb, we can say you lack DQ tact.
Well, only if they're in the United States, because we will lack DQ tact.
Yeah, that's probably true. Sadly, that's probably true. With the releases and news, this is shaping up to be a very questy month. How are you guys feeling about February right now?
Woohoo! Rune Factory 4.
Okay.
Sure.
Other than the Dragon Quest stuff too, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Dragon Quest: Your Story. I mean, the first time that I heard that it was coming out in Japan, I was super jealous, but I didn't expect that we would get an English dub. My sons love Dragon Quest V. My wife and my daughter will tolerate it, so we're totally gonna watch that next week. And yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. The ending has been spoiled for me. I'm totally fine with it. I'm gonna enjoy it anyway.
All right, let's not talk about that because I've successfully avoided all spoilers for it.
I can't believe you've actually avoided that.
Anytime I see reference to Your Story, I just completely shut off what I'm looking at or whatever.
No worries. I wouldn't dream of spoiling it for you, but
appreciate it. I'm sure the movie itself will spoil it for me when I actually see it.
There you go.
Because I hear it's terrible, but I'm going in with extremely low expectations. So I hopefully it won't be as bad as everybody says.
You know what they say though? Yeah, there's that saying. I mean, you could slap a DQ logo on a piece of crap, and many of us would buy it happily. And for me, I know that's definitely true. So I don't know. I'm definitely going to enjoy that.
Nice, yeah. It could be terrible, and I'll still attempt to get it on Blu-ray if possible. Just because it has
those
Dragon
bonus
Quest
features.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
I actually did miss my chance to become a voice actor as a slime for that. I was bugging Mishi, and I think Neil as well. I may have dropped a couple of hints, and I think I said this on a former podcast that if we did get an English dub, I would love to be just in any kind of background slime. I don't have to, say any major lines or anything. Just kind of whatever slimes say in the background, I'll do that. But unfortunately, that must have already been in the works before I started bugging people about that. But yeah, if there's a sequel, I'll totally submit a demo tape of me doing slime voices.
You should do it right now. This could be your demo tape. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we have time for that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a good thought. But we got a lot to discuss today, and I'm not just saying that to avoid the subject. I'm not just saying that. I mentioned the movie theater before. I was thinking about renting that community center movie theater out because you can do that. It's small, and you can just reserve it and just do Dragon Quest: Your Story when it comes out. Apparently, there's quite a few Japanese expats in the community, so it is possible I could just say hey, whoever wants to watch the Dragon Quest movie, but it's a little less of a selling point if it's just the English dub. So I don't know. So in other news, I signed up for Quest of the Stars on the Facebook page. I'd recommend if anyone hasn't done that already, you definitely do that because the more signups we get from the start, the better starting bonuses will be.
Yeah, I've signed up twice. I got my Apple device and my Google device.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I didn't think of that either. My son and I have both signed up. So yeah, we're ready for it. He was actually selected for the beta. Being Canadian, I guess we were in the pool without having to do the VPN or anything like that. But yeah. So being 12, he totally didn't check his email until a week ago, and I guess the beta's closed now. So just gotta wait till the end of the month, like the rest of us.
Oh man. Yeah, that's pretty funny because we were all really trying to get into that, or creating fake Canadian profiles to see if we can kind of sneak our way in, and none of us got in. Your son got in, but he wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Plattym3 Canada at gmail.com did not make the cut.
I'll put in a good word for you next time with Trudeau.
Nice. Yeah, because I'm sure he lobbied for that, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
All right. Well, we'll get talking about a lot more Dragon Quest stuff on today's podcast. But first, let's get to know our guest, King Zenith, who we've already been chatting with a little bit. We'll get to know him. And then the main part of our podcast today, we're going to be talking about, speaking of mobile games, we're going to talk about Dragon Quest Monsters Super Light, which still goes strong in Japan, but we had access to it for a very brief window in English. And we're going to talk about on the Wii, a system most of you probably don't have plugged in anymore, but we're going to talk about Dragon Quest Swords and that kind of one-off side game that came out. So, King Zenith, let's get to know you a little bit. what is with your username, and how did you get into Dragon Quest in general?
Well, it's really the same story. So, my DQ history is like so many other people. I got Dragon Warrior for free with a Nintendo Power subscription. But unlike a bunch of other people I've heard on this podcast, that's not why I got Nintendo Power. And I got the game and I played it, and I was like, wow, this is nothing like Mario or Duck Hunt. Like, I don't know, what is this? So I didn't really like it. I got bored. I put it down, and yeah, that's it. But a few months later, I got bored of my other games and decided I'll give this Dragon Warrior game another chance. Played a couple hours and really was digging it. So that's that. So I had a few hours of Dragon Warrior under my belt, and off we go on a road trip with my family. And I brought along my Explorer's Handbook that goes with the Dragon Warrior game. And I remember the whole trip, I'm just studying the book and trying to figure out, all right, how long before I can upgrade my axe to a broadsword, and when am I going to be ready to fight this scorpion thing, and that kind of stuff. So anyway, just my mind was, really into the game. So anyway, but again, I only had played a couple hours. So I came home from that trip just obsessed with the game and couldn't wait to play it again. And then, so yeah, the love was born. I went on, I played Dragon Warrior 2 through 4 as they were released. I remember always getting them for my birthdays. I didn't know when a new game was going to be released, but my dear sweet mother stayed on top of things and made sure that I always had the new games at my birthday. Only Dragon Warrior. Anyway, it was that was great. I always look forward to my birthday and a new Dragon Warrior coming down. At least that's how it worked until Dragon Warrior 4. After that, I'm sorry for the Dragon Quest fandom, but my mom really dropped the ball after that. So we never saw another Dragon Quest game after
That's
4.
why.
So I'm
That's
sorry.
why.
It's it's finally explained. So yeah, up until college. So I always thought it was weird how Dragon Warrior 1 to 3 were a trilogy, and then 4 was just kind of hanging out there. But I liked 4. It was always my favorite of the NES titles. I replayed it all the time. But anyway, after 4 and after playing it a bunch, I kind of gave up looking for a new Dragon Warrior game. I just figured this series is done. So fast forward to 2006, I just got married. And what do newlyweds so often do? They ignore each other and play video games. So yeah, that's what I did. So for some reason, right after getting married, I had this insatiable desire to play Dragon Warrior again. Like I had to reclaim this thing from my youth. Maybe it was like growing up, and I'm like, I didn't want to grow up too fast, so I had to have this thing from my childhood. So, but I'd sold my Nintendo at that point and the games that go with it some years before that. I got a lot of money for Dragon Warrior 4 and 2 and 3, but anyway, so I had to pay the bills. So anyway, I emulated those games, found an emulator, found the ROM, started playing them, and the love was rekindled. But this time I didn't have my trusty maps or explorer's guides. Those went when I sold them, so I had to search the internet for the best, most awesomest Dragon Quest fan site around. But that site was under maintenance, so I just settled on the Dragon's Den.
Are we talking about Dwayne's site?
Yeah, the DQ Shrine, of course.
The DQ Shrine, it's still under maintenance from what I hear.
Yeah, it's perpetually under maintenance.
Exactly. So a close second to the Dragon's Den. Nice. I didn't sign up for it, but while I was there, I remember learning that Dragon Warrior wasn't Dragon Warrior anymore. It's Dragon Quest now. And Japan kept getting more games that we didn't. So this kind of blew my mind. And when I found out about Dragon Quest V, my whole childhood just made more sense. Like Dragon Warrior 4 was never meant to be its own game. It's part of this larger story, the saga of the Zenithian. So I can't even explain the feeling that of playing through Dragon Quest V for the first time when I found there was a patch. I could play this in English. Everything else, I think I did a 2-year college program in 4 years because of Dragon Quest 5 and 6. Forget work. I got this. Yeah. So anyways, I finished 5. I went right on to 6 and played the hell out of that while my wife was pregnant with our first son. So that's So that's that. That brought me to Dragon Quest 6. And that's when I finally decided I'd take the plunge and I'm going to sign up with the Dragon's Den. And so Dragon Quest 6 is fresh in my mind. And I thought I'd choose a name that's kind of current with what I'm doing, and I was doing Dragon Quest 6. So, anyway, King Zenith is in that game. I actually make maps for a living, like surveying and mapping and stuff. And Zenith is a term that we commonly use, so it just seemed like a good fit. King Zenith, why not? And let me tell you, I was pissed when the official DS translation came out and they changed his name to Lord Zenith.
I think
Lord,
they did
like I built my
despite you.
yeah, I wondered, those bastards. But anyway, like he's not just some lord. He's not lord of the manor. He's king right. Zenith, for God's sake. Anyway, I briefly thought about changing my name, but I don't like Lord Zenith, and I'd already kind of attached the name to like my email address, YouTube, Twitter, and all that stuff. So just didn't happen. Anyway, fast forward 5 years, my son was very interested in Dragon Quest. I was always playing the game. He started playing Rocket Slime. He kind of continued on from there, and he's now played all the mainline games and most of the spin-offs in his 12 short years on this earth. So, raising him right, he might even be a bigger fan than me. He's asked a few times if he can join the Dragon's Den. So if you ever see like a Prince Zenith online, maybe that's him. I don't know. He could pop up one of these days.
Maybe he'll be Lord Zenith.
Yeah, maybe. That would work.
Just to mess with you.
That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. So, yeah, if I can give a piece of advice to anyone who's raising a child with the hopes that they'll share your love for Dragon Quest, it would be just that you need to have the talk, with your kids and do it early. Like kids are experiencing things at a much younger age than we did. They're practically born with a Switch controller in their hands. So as soon as they can play games, you need to teach them about safe questing. You need to get your kids to church and get them there often. When I give my kids the talk, I usually start with a story about the dozens of hours I poured into a game, grinding a super file, only to drop my DS and have the cartridge pop out on the floor before you could save. Don't be that kid. Don't be the kid crying in the backseat because the battery died and you haven't been to the church in 12 hours. Like, save every time you get a chance. Don't rely on your quick saves. Make a king or church save. Don't drop your DS, especially, if you're mad, don't throw it. Put it down and throw something worthless like the fine china. So
nice.
Anyway,
I feel like we need the PSA music, like the more you know.
oh, there we go.
Oh, man.
All right. So what are your some of your favorite or least favorite games in the DQ series?
My favorites are definitely the Zenithia trilogy. Like I said, I really liked 4, and then just that feeling when 5 and 6 came out, like I don't know, that there's nothing that really has even come close. So, and 6 even holds a special place in my heart for a number of reasons. I remember I played through the DS version like a half dozen times in English before it was released. I was helping to test a fan translation that was going on before we kind of knew that there was going to be an official release. I don't know, that was a lot of fun and really helped me kind of understand the plot of that game a lot more. Like when I played the Super Famicom version, I played it and I didn't really understand it as much, but going through the English DS version was a lot better. So anyway, yeah, Zenithia ones for sure. Least favorite, probably honestly like Dragon Quest 1 to 3, just because there isn't as much to those games. I know there's a lot of nostalgia, and I still love them, of course. Like, asking like what's your least favorite Dragon Quest game is totally a cruel question. Like making you rank your favorite children. We've all got them, but you can't say it.
Too.
Awesome.
So you have favorite spin-offs?
Yeah, actually, like Dragon Quest Swords is totally a favorite spin-off of mine. So, I mean, as soon as I learned that you could slash at slimes on a screen, like I've always imagined myself doing that. I just had to have the game. In fact, it was my lifelong dream to have this game. So now my lifelong dream is to do the Dragon Quest VR experience with my whole family. I guess I'm a little bit like Homer Simpson with my lifelong dreams, though. So I can just hear Marge saying, "Your lifelong dream was to eat the world's biggest hoagie, and you did that last year." But yeah. Anyway, but totally, when you talked about doing the Dragon Quest VR experience, that sounded amazing, and knowing you could do it with a party, like that's cool.
Yeah, that really did feel, having played Swords first, it really did feel like kind of a spiritual successor to that game, to Swords, the VR experience, in much a way that like I know Kenshin Dragon Quest came before Swords, and Swords is like I think it's considered a sequel at least I think according to IGN, there was some Square Enix has branded Dragon Quest Sword as a sequel to Kenshin Dragon Quest, which is the that motion activated kind of plug and play where it's like you're basically plugging a sword controller directly into the TV and the whole game's like in the controller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've heard that they're related in that way. I don't think the story connects or anything, but they're like a spiritual successor, like you said.
Conceptually very similar. But what's so cool about that Kenshin game is you can still get that in Japan. You can go over to I saw that on my last trip at a Don Quixote, which is kind of like it's like a convenience department store type thing where they just have like a lot. It's like several floors where they have like a lot of just random stuff to buy, like household items and tchotchkes and things. You just go explore those floors and you'll randomly see it like up on a shelf.
Do you need like an old school TV to play that to hook it up to, or can you does it have an HDMI port or something?
I doubt it has an HDMI. I think by the time it came out, it was probably RCA. I'm not sure about that, to tell you the truth, but I'm guessing it's RCA. Got
to track that down and make it work. Yeah, and like you're talking about the VR experience. That sounds totally amazing. I also mentioned how much stamina you need to get through it, and like also you guys are talking about losing your dad bods, but I'm growing my dad bods, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to train for a while before I go over there. I'll save up my shekels and train for the VR.
Well, I was in full dad bod mode when I went and did the VR, and that particular one. I went alone because my wife was watching our son, so they gave me a staff priest. They just gave me a young staffer there to be my priest. Since I was just being a gladiator, I would have just gotten wiped way faster than I actually did. But yeah, it was definitely, you're out of stamina, you're out of breath because you're just slashing as fast as you can at multiple monsters coming at you in an onslaught from multiple angles. So you have to constantly be like watching your back, like turning around 360 degree. It's a really cool experience, but I'd say, I don't know, exercise a little before you go.
I'll definitely work up to it. A couple marathons and then the VR experience.
Maybe not that. You don't have to train for a Tough Mudder. You just have to I don't know, hit a treadmill for a week.
I've already got the Rocky music going through my head, so all set. How cool would it be to be that staff priest or whatever? I mean, that's your job, is to just help people out on their quests. I don't know. I think that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think they were used to getting more groups, so you probably usually don't have to do that. But yeah, I think they were just taking pity on me for being the one guy who walked up alone and during like a quiet period.
Awesome. Yeah, so other spin-off games that I like, I mean, Slime Mori Mori, the Rocket series, love that. I played the first one. There is that translation patch for that first one that's good enough to get through it and understand it, so that was good. My son played it too. Rocket Slime, great. And I like the Monster series, maybe even especially Caravan Heart. I know that's kind of like the black sheep of the Monster series or something, but I like that game. I like the food system. I liked everything about it. So,
Not in this household, man. That's not a black sheep in this household.
All right.
I love that. I've played through it at least twice, and if you go on Game FAQs, I even have a little guide, I think a breeding guide or something there that I did when it came out. That is the one game I really anxiously, like within hours of the translation patch being there, I had it playing. That's great.
That's awesome.
The guide is called Platty's Guide to Not Hating This Game.
I think Brian Woodis over at the Den, Liam, isn't he trying to play that soon, or he was asking about it?
Maybe. I remember talking about the hunger mechanic and that a lot of people didn't like it.
Yeah, he was asking about it. I'm like, you know what? Honestly, after a couple hours, you don't even notice it.
Is it like Builders? Because I haven't played Caravan Heart yet.
Yeah, it is, because you're just, if you're out walking around the world map, you're going through your food. It just it's like a timer counting down.
So it's like Torneco then, and Torneco's the dungeon series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like any of those games.
And is it easy to find like bread or food or anything? Or
that's the thing. After like an hour or two, I don't think it really is a big issue, because you can start holding more, and you start getting more money.
Okay.
And
So the majority of the people who hated it were like, "Fuck this!" within the first hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about like healing in a Dragon Quest game. You know, after about 2 or 3 hours, you're not worried about having money for the inn. You're not worried about casting that spell and it using 90% of your MP.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. It's like walking through a poison swamp or whatever. Like when you've got 15 HP or whatever, you know, you got to count your steps. But when you got like 450, then who cares?
Yeah, you just plow through and like, oh well, so I'm poisoned. Cast my antidote and I'm good to go.
Nice.
So yeah, I don't even remember it being an issue. Like I said, past a couple hours. I mean, it is limiting right at the beginning, but it's limiting like hit points. You know, you've got 10. You better watch every shot that a slime gets on you. And then, you know, a few hours into the game, you're at 100 hit points. What's, 2, 3, 5 here and there.
So how about your least favorite spin-offs?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Itadaki Street or Fortune Street. My kids love that game. They used to play it all the time. And I don't know. It's just like I just couldn't get into it. And it's that one time in life where I just wish my kids would turn off that damn Dragon Quest game and play something good. I would never say that. Like Mario Kart, whatever. You should be playing Dragon Quest instead. Forget that game or Fortnite. Get over to Dragon Quest. But with Fortune Street, I'm just like, oh man, there's so many good games out there. Why are we playing this one? So, but the good thing for it, I guess, is it was multiplayer and obviously my kids could play it at a young age, so has that going for it. But no, not for me. I did play the Mario one for the DS. I played the Final Fantasy one for PS2, and of course the Wii one that we actually received in the West. So, but no, not a big fan.
That's interesting because you played all of them.
I know. Yeah,
you just play one of them. You're like, that's done for me. You're like, I hate this. I gotta play the sequels.
Maybe they'll be better.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you're always hoping that maybe the next one, maybe it'll catch on the next one. I'll like the next one better. It'll be better.
Right.
It'll finally click. So, any games in the Dragon Quest franchise that you haven't got around to playing that you'd really like to?
Oh man, this is embarrassing. But as much as I've played so many of the games, I've only played like 2 or 3 hours worth of Dragon Quest 11 and Heroes 2 and Builders 2. I desperately want to play these games. I was saying to Matt earlier, they're in the other room. They're taunting me. They call out to me all the time. But I just can't get to those games. I just don't have that much time for console games anymore. My son, who's 12, he's played through all of those. He's thoroughly spoiled 11 for me. I held out for a long time. I was like, don't tell me what's going on. And he's like, okay, but it's cool. And then yeah. So I finally broke down. We had to talk about it.
Nice. 11 is definitely worth prioritizing. Particularly, I hear if you have the Switch version with all the extra content and everything.
That's what sucks. I bought all these games. They're waiting for me on the PS4, and now I want to get a Switch and play all of them on that for Definitive Edition. And I guess we'll just have to buckle down and do that. Yeah. So yeah, all of those games. I haven't played any of the Mystery Dungeon games for more than like 10 minutes. I have booted them all up and kind of looked around a little bit, but I'd like to play those too. And again, I fell off the wagon before 8 for 3DS came out, so I haven't played that. My son has, right up to the souped-up bosses at the end. And I don't know. So I really want to play. I got a big backlog. I got some homework to do.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've got a backlog. I have to play through the entire Monster series, which I'm on 1 right now, because I've never played more than half of that, and now I'm about 3/4 in, so hoping to give
You've got like 200 hours on that, and you're 3 hours in.
Yeah, well, I'm doing a severe amount of grinding to bulk up my monsters. That's nice. The big to grind or not to grind.
He's going to stomp the final boss. We've chatted about this. Like, Liam, you get to like level 40 before breeding, and me, I'm like, oh, look, level 10, I can breed.
Well, we've got a great debate about the grind and that like when to class change. We had this whole discussion, I guess, last week about Dragon Quest 3 and when to class change in that. Platy, you said never.
What's the point?
Yeah. And I would always have my characters up to around like level 40 so that they have like a decent amount, like all the spells and a decent amount of like MP and HP, so that when it's halved, it's not as big of a loss, and like, you know, now you can just grind back up to to like 20, and you'll have like way better stats than if you were to just class change at 20 and have like half the spells and not that much MP. So
this game's completion time is twice mine.
I'm totally with Platty on that one. I mean, I class change my my mage into a sage, and that's it. I'm super boring with Dragon Quest 3. I don't see the point either. Like, there's really no need for it, and it's not fun for me, so I just don't do it. I don't know. Anyway,
it's okay. We can be on different sides.
Yeah, we often are.
One today, so
we often are on different sides. It's good. Yeah, I like music, and Platty doesn't. I like grinding. You don't.
There's music in Dragon Quest games.
Yeah. All right. So
if I ever hit the unmute button, that's what I'll hear.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite or least favorite characters or monsters?
I don't have a lot of like mainline characters that I dislike passionately. Like I know a lot of people really hate Maribel. I like her. I think she's great. So, you know, I guess the people I'm not a huge fan of are kind of the boring people, like Tuppence in Dragon Quest V, or Nevin in Dragon Quest 6. Like, I don't know. Like Tuppence especially, he just doesn't have anything going for him. Like, I don't know. No special ability. There's nothing to set him apart. He's just boring. He can play chess though, so he's got that. I guess I forget about that. But you know, at least Sancho had whistle, and he could equip a Hellhammer and stuff that made him useful. Tuppence is he's terrible.
Yeah, there's nothing to him.
Yep. Least favorite characters. Since we're talking about Dragon Quest V, I got to talk about Dr. Agon, or I don't know, is that how you say his name? Like Ned Flanders. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I love The Simpsons. Flanders is a great character, but Dragon Quest V didn't need the Zenith Dragon to be Flanders. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know. Did that bother? Is that just me, or did that bother you guys too? Were you like, what is this guy?
I don't remember that. Was that in the remake?
Yeah, in the DS one. Everything is diddly doodly.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't specifically remember it from that as much as I remember it from the DQFM episode where Austin was going on and on about how much it's BJ's. He talks just like BJ, and these are Southern guys talking Dragon Quest all the time, and BJ's Ned Flanders. So yes, when you say that, I think back to the episode they did last summer about that, and they did a whole skit where, is it something Dr. Agon said, or is it something that BJ said? And even BJ got a couple of them wrong. He's like, oh yeah, I do say that. But
that's awesome.
It's kind of like all the accents in Dragon Quest IV when they brought that over. Some things they just took and ran with, and maybe they should have pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I like some accents, and it's better when it's spoken, of course. But Dragon Quest IV, that went too far, especially the first chapter of the game. So anyone picking up this game, hey, I wonder what this is.
Yeah,
drop right into that Scottish brogue or whatever it is, and it was too bad because they dialed it back a little bit later. But the first chapter is, you just can't understand what the hell they're saying.
Yeah, that's really frustrating because Dragon Quest IV is my favorite classic game, and I really dislike what they did with the phonetic accents and stuff, and I just have to like translate it. But yeah, there was a fan patch for like a DS ROM where you could actually like put the Dragon Warrior 4 script into Dragon Quest 4. And like
I saw that, yeah.
It's like I haven't tried it yet, but I do feel like playing it that way on a future playthrough.
Me too. That was a cool idea, and kudos to that team for doing that. That looks awesome. Yeah. So what are we talking about? Favorite characters, I guess.
Favorite characters, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Anyone willing to give me a puff gets bonus points. Even that sheep in Dragon Quest 9. So yeah.
Is that we were talking about the sheep. Is it the sheep in the post game on the cliff?
I don't know the sheep in the post game on the cliff. Like it could be. It's from a DLC quest. And I think it was in the Hunter's Yurts near Batsureg, or however you pronounce that.
Okay.
So yeah, it was just a quest to you get a puff as a reward if you can like fight a boss troll and get it to drop something, bring it back there, and then you get a sheep's ass in your face. 2 sheeps.
Oh.
Yeah. So they get you from both sides there. If you haven't seen it, I mean, like, go to YouTube and check it out. Dragon Quest IX Puff with the sheep. It's really weird.
Nice. I don't remember that one. I think I only did all the quests on my first playthrough because some of them were kind of annoying.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like some of them were just like really hard to generate the exact like situation and everything, where you could like the exact type of like special monster that needed to show up, or you had to do like a series of things, a series of like special moves for it, and it was just kind of frustrating. So
It
was a tough one. I just did it once, and then never again.
A lot of them involved a lot of randomness. Yeah, what was the one with like take the stick and beat the slimes with only using a cypress stick or something like that?
I think one of the worst I remember was there was a monster with decent HP, and you had to your last hit on it had to be a critical hit or something like that. So
that's
just cruel.
Yeah.
There was one with like an atlas that you could only defeat with fire, or like the weakest fire spell or something like that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, they were very nitpicky, and by the time you're on quest like 198, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, there was the dangerous bustier one as well, which is like a 1% drop in a like an S rank chest or something like that. And it was just like really, really frustrating to have to like go through that many grottos just to find this one item of clothing for a quest.
Yeah, for sure. And the DLC too. I mean, that's it's too bad. I guess we can't get it anymore without special means. I really hope they remake that game.
I'm sure they will. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that they're going to work on that at some point. They've remade almost every game in the series, everyone in the main series at this point.
Oh, they have. Heck, they've already remade 11.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess not remade, but I mean, yeah, they've already got 11-2 basically out there on the Switch. So, oh my, I'm watching the sheep giving a puff right now.
Oh, nice.
The line I like. Here we go. Come on, come now, come to me. Good. Now stay in your place. Nope, right there. I'm done.
It says I'm done at the end.
Oh no, that was me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think there's something like one more time with your woolly behinds on their face or something like that, right? I don't know. It's something to see. Definitely got to check it out.
Oh, now one more time. Yeah, here we go. Puff again. Bah.
Yes,
you must not bleed so.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, good stuff.
Oh, boy. We'll have to have Woodis drop that in the YouTube version of this. He does a YouTube version for this, and he's always looking for photos of what we're talking about or clips of what we're doing.
That's awesome. I remember there was a Dragon's Den contest one time where you had to do something funny or make a video. And I think I put a bunch of sheep clips from Dragon Quest IX, including this Puff Puff, to the song "Dirty Deeds Done with Sheep." I guess it's a parody.
Was that? That sounds like Weird Al. Who did that?
It's not. It's something else. I don't know. Woodis was actually familiar with the song because I guess being from Iowa, their Dirty Deeds Done with Sheep is something about Velcro gloves. I don't know. Anyway. Ask Woodis to tell you more about it. I don't know. Yeah.
Velcro gloves, knee pads, late night dates, done with shit. Warning signs, electric fences, high voltage, done with shit. Dirty deeds. Don't tell them what I've done to you. Done with shit. Dirty deeds. Dirty deeds. Done with shit. Quiet, girl.
So do you have any least favorite monsters?
Yeah, all those trap monsters, mimics, unexpected, well-wishers. So I don't like those guys, but anyway.
Yeah, especially like when you're in an advanced dungeon and it's like very obviously going to be a mimic.
Right.
When you open it and you're like, all right, here we go. I'm at that point in monsters right now. It's like every chest is a mimic, and it's I know it's not going to be an item. It's going to be a fight, but I'm just going to plow through it anyway.
Totally. I got to open that chest. I got to smash that pot. Like I just can't not do it because I know there's probably a mini medal in it for me too. I can't leave that hanging. So it's just something you got to get through. Yeah. My favorite monsters would be like any kind of archdemon variant. I always like those guys. But I think my absolute favorite is the desert demon. I think when I first saw it, I thought it was desert demon, but it's dessert. And he's carrying around a big spoon just in case he sees like a huge chocolate sundae out in the wild or something. I don't know. But when you think about it, like being killed with that spoon has got to be way more painful than with a fork. I got to think that would be like a slow, painful death. So yeah, more respect.
Oh man, the Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie. There's a line where the sheriff said he's going to cut Robin Hood's heart out with a spoon, and the guy of Gisborne's like, "Why a spoon, cousin? Why not an axe?" And he turns to him and he's like, "Because it's dull, you twit. It'll hurt more." So there you go. Yeah.
Wasn't that Snape?
Was it the same actor?
Yeah, I think it was Alan
Rickman.
Rickman, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
McLean, give me back my detonators. Different movie, same actor. Anyway, moving on.
Classic.
That's not one of my slime voices.
We're saving it for the demo tape anyway.
Yeah, don't give away your one thing that you can do there.
Awesome.
I don't know what that one thing is, but don't give it away.
All right, awesome.
So you like the Archdemon ones?
Yep, Archdemons are good. I like golems. My 3 golems were awesome in Dragon Quest VIII. I'd always have those in the arena, use them out in the wild. And then any mech monster, Hunter Mech, Killing Machine, Trauminator. Trauminator is definitely the best. Like, I don't know, Trauminator, Trauminate.
Yeah, did you talk about Dragon Quest IX?
Yeah.
Are the Trauminators in any other game?
They're in the Monsters series, I guess.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, and they're in Superlight, I suppose. I had a Trauminator in Dragon Quest Monsters Superlight, if I recall correctly.
Nice.
Yeah.
They had a lot of cool ones in Superlight. We'll get to that, definitely. All right, so what kind of mechanics do you like in Dragon Quest games? Do you like the monster collecting games, ones that have the different job classes? Do you spend some time at the casinos?
Yeah, monster collecting is definitely the favorite of mine. So I love the monster recruiting mechanic, Dragon Quest V. And, to a lesser extent, Dragon Quest VI for the Super Famicom original. I don't know. I just like being able to completely forsake my goddess given party and just use like whatever monsters I find more useful. Yeah, that was definitely my favorite mechanic. Other stuff I like. I like job classes. I like casinos, but monster collecting is totally my favorite.
Definitely. I know that's one of my favorite. I know Liam's finally getting into the series, but here it is. Like was it 2 years ago? I spent like 100+ hours when I found out that Joker 3 and Terry's Wonderland had fan translations. That's all I did for a couple months was sit on my computer. I'd never game on my computer, and I'm like, oh my God, I can emulate these games, and holy cow. One of the first games, my kids like would just stand next to me and watch me play. They still talk about Terry a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got to a part in Monsters where I have to fight older Terry in like the room of reflection or whatever, the portal of reflection, and I keep thinking, I'm like, oh wow, it's like young Terry's monsters fighting older Terry from 6. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but so do you have any favorite official DQ merchandise or stuff made by fans that you bought?
Yeah, I've got a few things. I mean, I got to give a shout out to the Perler beads for
Platy Perler.
For Platy. Yeah, I saw you do those Perler beads on the den, and as soon as I saw that, I went out and bought some, and I was just like, we can do this with the kids. We can get those 8-bit sprites and totally do that. So, but what I really want, I can't make I want to make a huge one, but I can't find a Perler bead board that's big enough to accommodate the huge monsters I want to do on those things. But
yeah, you got to connect like 16 smaller ones or something.
Yeah, there's a couple different guys through my Facebook group that every time I post, they comment and they'll share some of theirs. And one guy is trying to make his way through the entire Dragon Quest III bestiary, and it's insane because I won't touch those monster sprites because listen, I've got just the little boards there. I got it memorized. They're 29 by 29, and if it's more than 29, if it's 30 or 31, I can mentally like take out a line and make it fit. I think once, because my sons were dying for me to make the hero from Dragon Quest Monsters, not the Dragon Quest Monsters, but Dragon Quest Builders 2 this summer, and the little Malroth. And for them, I took like the high-res image and ran it through some program online to pixelate it, and then we fixed it after I made it. I was like, well, this looks like crap. And we just fixed a couple little things, though, to make them. Those are the only ones I've ever done with like 2 boards put together. But I look at these guys. Some guys made a golem with like 4 boards. He's got 16 boards there. And I'm like, are you kidding me? No way.
That's amazing.
Yeah. My wife looks at them, and because my wife does all the ironing for the most part of them when we make them, and she's like, you can't pick that up. You can't move that, and I'm not going to iron that. How are you going to flip that over for me to iron the other side? I'm like, yeah, nope. My patience is a 29 by 29 box, and I'll do many, many, many of them, but not together.
That's awesome. I got a bunch more of those that I want to do then. So yeah, thanks for the heads up about that. That's really cool.
No problem.
Yeah, other stuff, like I got a stuffed slime. It was actually given to me by a fellow Dragon Quest fan, Obi-Shan. So yeah, I mean, my youngest son would sleep with that little guy when he was young, and that slime has been into a lot of battles. He's been with the full cast of the Avengers. He's fought with the Power Rangers. He's not a bad slime, So he always fights alongside the good guys, obviously. A few years back, I won a contest on the Dragon's Den that was run by a generous Dragon's Den fan, Robotnik the Drac. He had a huge collection of stuff, and he had this big giveaway contest. And so I managed to win that. I can't even remember what the contest was to do, but the prizes I got from that were some little figures. I got a Terry figure, Carver, Nevin, Batsu. Is that what you call the Dragon Quest VI hero?
Yep.
Yeah, and Torneko. And then a Torneko DQ comic book and like 60 Dragon Quest card game cards. So that was awesome. Yeah, and a couple shirts. I've got the blue shirt that they gave away with the Dragon Quest IX promo event, and that yellow shirt, the Partners in Slime shirt that they gave away with the Joker 2 release.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, it's sweet. Yeah, I'll take a picture. I got a picture of my kids wearing it that I posted on the Den one time. So, yeah, it's a good one.
Cool.
I think it's got like a dark slime and angel slime or something on it.
And how did you get that one?
Actually, yeah, that's a good question. I got that one from, before Dragon Quest Monsters Joker 2 came out, the Dragon's Den was approached by Golan Harris, a PR firm that handled the promotions for the game. And so they asked if Woodis, Dwayne, and I would run an Ultimate Dragon Quest Superfan contest. And that was a awesome contest. So many Dragon Quest fans wrote in, and basically, you'd film yourself or whatever you wanted to do. You could use any medium at all to show yourself being a super fan. I think Cesar Hernandez, he did like a song, I think, and he sang a bunch of Anyway, by running that contest, and their way of thanks was to give us free copies of the game, and we got those shirts too. So yeah, that was pretty sweet. I think the winners of the contest got like a DSi XL, like a plaque. And a couple other things as well. So that was awesome.
Wow,
cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of all these other denizens, you ever meet anybody in real life?
Yeah, totally. So I travel a lot for work. So anytime I'm in a town where I know there's someone from the Dragon's Den, I try to connect to them in advance, arrange to make a meetup. I've had a lot of fun meeting other Dragon Quest fans. Couple of highlights, like the best one was probably the trip to Denver. I went down there and put out a notice on the Dragon's Den and on GameFAQs that I'd like to have a meetup. Let's get a bunch of people together and see if we can, like tag mode, do some multiplayer. And so I think we had like 8 or 9 people show up for that, including Saigon and Nick Frizzy. I think he goes by nfrizzy28 on GameFAQs, but he's done a lot of crazy stuff on GameFAQs. So yeah, that was really cool. I was trying to set it up, and Google told me that the closest thing to my work was this IKEA. And I was like, yeah, that'll work. We can go just like it's a perfect place. We'll be a bunch of nerds hanging out, eating meatballs. Anyway, and I needed it to be close to where I worked. So so that was that. So I set the time, and then after work that day, I checked to see how long the walk was. When I looked at first at Google, I was just looking at how far away it is, but the walk, it was like an hour walk. It's just a stone's throw across the freeway, but to get there, I had to take this really convoluted route off in the wrong direction, cross this magical bridge until you can cross the freeway, and then through some swampy parkland with some sketchy looking people and things. And then finally I arrived at the IKEA. So, I mean, when you think about it, it was just like Dragon Quest 1, where they start you off in the game and you're right next to Charlotte Castle, but you can't get there. You got to go around the whole world first. So, yeah. Anyway, nice. So we showed up. Like I said, there was 8 or 10 people, not including Saigon's girlfriend, who she stayed a safe distance away from us. Definitely did not want to be associated with the Nerd Patrol. The look on her face when all of us were kind of descending on that food court, I'll never forget it. It's like when a dad embarrasses his teenage daughter in front of all of her friends. Anyway. That was awesome. Yeah, so we all brought like 2 or 3 DSs, and everyone had like a copy of every game that had tag mode and multiplayer and stuff. And, it was a good time. And then at the end of the night, Nick Frizzy took pity on me and said, hey, man, I know it's like an hour walk. I'll drive you home. No big deal. And I was like, hey, that's great. And he's like, only thing is, I don't have any seats in my car. So you're going to have to ride in the trunk. But I mean, I didn't want to take that walk, so I hopped in his trunk and he drove me home.
Oh, you survived. Thanks, Nick, for not being a killer.
Yeah, just move that other body out of the way.
I just I implicitly trust anyone who's a Dragon Quest fan. So what could go wrong?
How does he have a car with no seats in it?
He had seats. They were just filled with a bunch of stuff, like boxes. Okay. Things.
All right, yeah. All right.
I don't think he was anticipating giving any rides that night. So, yeah. Definitely the weirdest thing that's happened on my Dragon Quest adventures. Another memorable trip was to Santa Fe. My work was starting to recognize people for kind of showing some potential. And they said, hey, we're going to have this offsite corporate retreat in Santa Fe. We'll do some training. It'll be really cool. And so I remembered that the venerable Ignatia 7 hails from Santa Fe. So I looked him up and said, hey, do you want to get together? And he said, sure. Yeah, let's do that. So anyway, we figured out time to meet for lunch on the first day of the retreat. And when we got to Santa Fe, I was told by the people I was working with that like everyone's getting together for lunch, and like we all need to be there. You can't miss this. So what does a new up-and-coming person who wants to try to climb the corporate ladder do? That's right. You ditch work and you meet your fellow DQ nerd. So I totally did that. I ditched. I had lunch with Alex, which is his real name, Ignatius7. And he kindly, we had a great lunch. It was really nice. We talked shop. Didn't really get a chance to multiplayer or anything like that. Just had a little bit of time. And then he walked me back to my hotel. And on our way there, we ran into all of these corporate bigwigs who I was trying to impress, and they could clearly see that I'd blown them off. And I was like, oh, crap. And then Alex jumped to my rescue. He jumped in and he's like, hey, yeah, I'm from here. Do you guys want to have a guided tour of Santa Fe? And all these guys are like, oh, you're Mike. You met a local. That's really cool. So, anyways, so he walked all these people from my work. He walked us around town, told us about the history and the local culture, and everyone thought it was just amazing. And so I think I leveled up a couple points that day just because of Ignatius7. So
nice.
Yeah, I'll never forget that day.
Ignatius 7 is probably one of my oldest DQ friendships I've had. I've never met him in person, but I've known him since like the early days of the NX forums. He's a great guy. We chat every now and again, like what's going on in life and everything. And I see him on the Den all the time, usually writing the longest posts you've ever seen in your life with the most detail. He loves to write. And Nick Frazee as well. I've done some project work with him with like the DQ9 stuff, mail and tag over the years. So I know him from GameFAQs as well.
Awesome. Yeah, he's definitely a good guy. And I know he did some. I remember the funniest thing about Nick was there was this guy on GameFAQs who was claiming to do all this crazy Dragon Quest V stuff. Like, as he was going through, he was getting 999 Cypress sticks, and then he'd move on and get, he was just getting like the ultimate file. And Nick just set out to like prove that this guy was just making this up. It was just total bullshit. Anyway, so he was replicating his efforts and recording the time it took to do all this stuff actually, and it was insane. Anyways.
So you mapped all of the DQ8 stuff using some pretty cool techniques and software. What specifically did you do, and how did you do it?
Yeah, I love to make maps. I mean, I make maps for a living, so that was and like I've always found the maps to be helpful in these Dragon Quest games. So anytime there's a game, there needs to be a map for it. Even if I don't need it, I have to make a map. So the first map that the Dragon Quest 8 map was cool. It was the fourth map that I made using that kind of special technique that I created, I guess, or used for that. The first one was for Dragon Quest 9. There's lots of maps already for that game. They're all that like tan or brown color maps that are kind of like right out of the game. I wanted something like the beautiful tile set maps that you can find for all the 2D games. So when I reached the point in the game where you can fly the Starflight Express over the 3D world, it kind of gave me an idea. And like I said, I make maps, and I've spent years writing software that makes maps from like aerial images and stuff like that. So yeah, when I saw the problem that was kind of stopping us from having maps for these 3D games like Dragon Warrior 7 and Dragon Quest 8 and 9, I kind of did some experimenting, and I had some help from a bunch of people from the Dragon's Den and a lot of encouragement from Woodis and stuff. So anyway, my process was to like emulate the game and record a video of me like just flying north. And then I'd dump that video. I'd dump all the individual frames from that video into separate image files, and then write some code that picks through each frame and just grabs like one pixel along the map, I guess, or one row along the map, and then it would just build up that same row from successive images as you go along, and then everything's kind of taken at the same perspective as you build up a strip of images. So you get all these strips that are of just like south to north image. Anyway, make these image strips. And then if you kind of mosaic these strips together, you can get a full, glorious 3D world map. Anyway, so it's if anyone's a mapper out there, it's like the video game equivalent of a push broom scanner. Whatever. Anyways, cool. So I called the map the Starflight Express world map for lack of a better term. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, after I did that, I used the same thing for Dragon Warrior 7. It always bothered me that game never had a map. I understood why. Like, it was that kind of weird 3D perspective, and you just can't take screenshots and paste them together like you could for the other game. So tried the same thing, didn't really work. I couldn't get it pixel perfect, so I just kind of left it for a while. Had to do some work to kind of make the math all line up. But yeah, anyway, I eventually picked it back up again, got it all sorted out, and got it ready to go. But for Dragon Quest VII, it was kind of a pain because I ran into some other issues too. Like, you can't walk in the ocean or over the mountains or anything like that. So I'm recording the videos of walking north, but you're bumping into things. So I tried making it from that flying rock. That definitely worked, but it's just wasn't nice compared to the full resolution ground level map. So I needed a cheat code or hack that I could like walk anywhere, walk through walls, that kind of thing. And Aaron B from the Dragon Stand was working really hard, extracting a bunch of resources from that game for one of her game scripts. And so she had a treasure trove of codes that would allow me to walk like hobo Link Jesus over the water. So that was kind of a miracle in itself.
Is this the PlayStation version or the 3DS version?
Yeah, PlayStation version.
Oh, okay. All right.
Actually, I would love to try it on the 3DS version. I haven't really caught up with 3DS emulation yet, so I might have to talk to you about that later, Platty, and we'll hook you up. Get some more maps going. Awesome. Yeah, and other weird issues too, like you're walking north and then all of a sudden the screen flashes red. I guess I was walking through a poison swamp, and so I needed codes that would turn that off and stuff like that. So anyway, had the maps for 9 and 7. I tried making some dungeon maps for the DS games. If you look on the Dragon Stand for Dragon Quest V DS dungeon maps, there's a few, I think 5 or 6 up there now. That was really cool because those dungeons are all 3D, but I was able to kind of use that method to make like a 2D map of the 3D dungeons. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's a long story. Make a long story even longer. I used that same method for Dragon Quest VIII while flying on Imperia. I recorded a video in PCSX2 flying north. I found I could build up those image strips that way. The trick with Dragon Quest VIII is that they give you like way too much control. I'm trying to fly the bird, but like, you got that joystick, you can turn her like a fraction of a degree. And so to get her pointed due north was like impossible. And you also had to point her down towards the ground. So everything was like at a kind of a downward looking perspective. Anyway, I had a lot of help from some Dragon's Den people. Erdrick the Hero and Skater Punk were both, avid, hackers, I guess. And they helped me with Cheat Engine. I was able to kind of use that to watch the memory addresses when you would turn Imperia and her flight direction would change some address in RAM. So I'd watch that, and then through that I was able to kind of control the bird. So I made a script and I could force her to fly north and point down when I pushed a button. So yeah. Anyway, all that said, I was able to kind of make those strips, make the map, and it was a lot of work. It took I think it took me 4 months to make the Dragon Quest VIII map, and that's from working like a couple hours a day, every day. Like it was insane, but it was, and it's a huge amount of data. Like one strip north to south was like 200 gigabytes of raw image frames. Like I couldn't have the compressed images or the pixels wouldn't match up, so it had to be raw image frames. And anyway, it was a total pain in the ass, but it was really cool when it was done.
So all you Dragon Quest VIII fans out there, and 9 and 7 as well, if you've been using a map, thank King Zenith for that. Those world maps. All right, well, enough about the older games, enough about the mainline games. The main event tonight is we're going to talk about some of the more obscure titles that if you're a new fan, you definitely haven't played, and even if you are a longtime fan, you might not have gotten one or the other here. These were very small window games that don't work on higher systems. They've not been re-released on anything newer, and I'm going to guess with swords that we probably won't see that, although you'd think the Switch would be a perfect way to do it. But we'll start out talking about Dragon Quest Monsters Super Light. This is a mobile game. It's actually just starting its 6th year in Japan right now. Somebody mentioned that recently, and I was like, oh yeah, I do remember, because I started playing this game in Japanese when it came out. I think I played about January to March in 2014, and I had just started teaching at the school I'm at now, and I actually had a student that just started in January. I was just getting to know her, and she was from Japan. She spoke enough English to get by, at least in math class, but she was from Japan. I was like, hey, can you translate what this does every now and then? Probably like once a week I was asking her, like, what is this event? What is it saying? What is it doing? The whole time I'm like, oh, please God, be safe enough for a 10-year-old to read. But it was pretty fun. I mean, after a couple months, I mean, of just playing 10, 20, 30 minutes a day, I really couldn't figure out how to do anything. I never learned how to combine the monsters or what the eggs did or much, not being able to read anything. But I had fun playing it and, looked forward to when, it came out later. King Zenith, you played the Japanese version too, right?
Yeah, I played it for a little bit when it came out. I mean, just enough to kind of poke around, mess around. But, I just can't enjoy a game if I can't tell what's going on or read the text. And, I could figure some things out by trial and error, but it just, yeah. So I kind of felt it out a little bit and I just kind of left it alone after that.
Yeah, so I think it was about a year and a half later, because the Japanese version had been out for a while, because I always remember when we were playing the Southeast Asian version that came out about a year and a half later, they were well ahead. They were getting all this extra stuff in Japan, and the Southeast Asian version, from what people were saying online, was like, oh, you're still on like version 1, and here we are on like version 3. We've got all this extra stuff. But it was you had to kind of sideload it. Can't remember if it was able to be done on Apple devices. Liam, did you play on an Apple device?
No, I was specifically Android.
Yeah, because that was very easy to. There was always a page that could be updated with the APK file. Yeah, and then sideloaded on an Android device, and had to do that every couple weeks. Every time an update came out, it wouldn't update automatically without that, I remember, for the most part. But yeah, I mean, all of a sudden we could play it in English. That was pretty cool. I started a contest on the Den where it's one of the first ones, I think, where we did like different tiers, like if you could get this many monsters, if you could reach this point, if you could reach this, you could get a bronze or a silver or a gold badge. And we were kind of feeling our way through it, like what would a gold badge mean? Because heck, we were just starting it. I remember that morning when it dropped. It was a lot of fun. It was like a lot of mobile games. You had a stamina meter so that you couldn't just sit and play forever unless you wanted to drop some money on recharging your stamina. It was a Dragon Quest Monsters game. You were collecting monsters. You were improving them. I remember it had some of the mechanics reminded me a little bit of Puzzles and Dragons, where you could charge up one of your monsters by devouring, or I can't remember, the one monster would be sacrificed and its power would go to the next one, help you build up experience for it. But yeah, you just run little, and I keep thinking back to Puzzles and Dragons, because you would just run a little corridor, not a corridor, because there was a map that you could go up, down, left, right. And Liam, I know you had one of the cool things about the map you're going to talk about, but you'd fight, 8, 10 monster battles, get to a big battle at the end of the map, and if you won, you'd get a little prize, and you were able to move on to the next map. But man, I remember I gave it about 2 to 3 months, and I think I stopped. It was like map 13-1 or something like that, that initially it never updated past, and I think later it did, but that was my stopping point. I was like, okay, this hasn't updated in like 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. I've seen what it has to offer. I'm done.
Yeah, I do remember that. I don't think it did get much past that 13-1, if I remember correctly. If it did, it was like very late in the release, and I was kind of done at that point as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did play my strongest memories about the game are from the events, and just like finding these unique monsters. They had like a Halloween Town one. They had the one where you have to like search through these tunnels to find Don Mole. Mm-hmm. So just maps that were special maps that had like a unique boss that you could only find and hopefully recruit during a limited amount of time. And it wasn't like a guaranteed recruit to fight him. You had to fight him like multiple times. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those gacha games. So you had movement points, I think, and you could only move a certain amount of time before you had to either wait or buy more time. I may be misremembering the movement or how much it cost to move. But yeah, I do seem to kind of recall something like that, where you could only, or maybe it costs a certain number of movement points to start a map.
Yeah, is that the stamina that Platy was talking about?
Okay, yeah.
And the harder maps would cost more stamina. So, like, if you wanted to do World 12, you might have to spend 10 of your stamina points. Where if you were in World 2, it was like 2 points or something like that.
Yeah, and the special maps might have been more too, as well.
Yeah.
So try to get you to spend more on it to try and get. Yeah, it's the thing about gacha games.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think if you leveled up too, that would increase your stamina back to max or something like that. So that was always. Otherwise you're waiting, or like Platy said, you gotta pay money. I don't know if a lot of people did that, but leveling up would restore your stamina too.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the map feature. One cool feature that I thought was worth mentioning is that as you're traveling through the map, you're swiping on your smartphone to like move left to right, up, down. You could swipe halfway to see what monster might be coming in the next location. So some of the monster locations were randomized when you'd start a stage, but you could still kind of scroll halfway to the next screen and see, is it a boss? Is it a monster I think I can beat? Is it something I've never seen before? And I'm not sure, so if it was something you felt confident enough to fight, then you choose whether or not to do so. This was particularly helpful to avoid stumbling onto boss fights or significantly harder monsters where you might not be prepared to engage.
Yeah, that's right. I remember they had like those, it wasn't a boss, but it was kind of like a special fight in some stages or whatever, and they were always kind of like ridiculously hard. It was optional, so you could go past it. But yeah, some weird monster that for some reason is just super strong. And so it was nice to be able to kind of swipe halfway and go, whoops, not doing that one.
That's right.
Swiping left or swiping right for those.
Yeah, right. Nice. If you lost the fight, you lose that stamina that you just spent on the map. So you have to.
You were kicked out of the map. So
yeah, you're kicked out of the map, and you just lost that stamina. So you have to either wait like an hour to gain like one stamina or something like that. So just like wait a day, basically. And when it's like special maps, you don't have that time. So they're trying to goad you into spending more money to get that stamina back to fight these like ridiculously hard special map bosses.
Yeah, it's funny you called it a gacha game, right? Like that's a term. Like, is it a Japanese term?
I might be pronouncing it wrong, but I always kind of feel it sounds like it's like gacha money.
Exactly. That's exactly what I pronounce it the same way as you do, and I always think about it that way. I'm like, yeah, you got me all right.
Right.
Like, yeah.
So yeah, it's a term that it's like the vending machines, where you put in a coin, you get something, but you don't know what's coming out. You got to pop open the ball that it comes out, and it's that randomness.
Yeah.
Like a gamble. It's like pulling the tombola. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, the tombolas are huge in Japan. That's a legit thing they'll do at stores.
So this is the digital equivalent of that.
Yeah, it's like a very popular thing where they do a lot of things with point cards. You go into a grocery store that you go to often, and they have a point card system where you get it builds up to some kind of discount. And in one local grocery store where we lived back in 2017. They had this one that was like the tombola. So we got up to a certain number of stamps on the card, and then we got a ticket for the tombola. And like I'm rolling the tombola, and then I take out a ball, and then they tell you what prize in the grocery store you get, and it's like usually something random. But like here I am with my pregnant wife, and I picked these like pears, and I won these pears, and now I have to carry these like 2 heavy crates of Japanese pears all the way down the street to the apartment. And I was just like, all right. I wasn't expecting it, but that's like the type of thing that they'll do these types of like tombola giveaways, and then you get something random from the store. The other thing I could think of is that they had the kitchen and bath. I think this is at Lawson or 7-Eleven or something. Where you buy tombola tickets, and then they do the tombola, and then you get a certain item within the kitchen and bath line. Like they had the slime pancake pan, and like the slime bath towels and things like that. All of that was tombola based. So you buy these tickets, and then what you get out of it is going to be completely random.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they love the Tombola over there, and that Tombola started was that in Dragon Warrior 2?
2.
Yeah,
I remember had those tickets. Yeah.
yeah, that was a tough one too. You had to kind of match it up. It was more like a slot machine type thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, you were gonna mention the scrapyard. That was one of the special boards, right, Liam? On what is it? On Super Light here.
Yeah, I do vaguely remember this, where you get a lot of metal monsters on it.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't pop up all the time, but maybe like one day every other week or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was like once a week, like on honestly, yeah, I think it was like once a week or something. The scrapyard would open up and yeah, then you just save up all your stamina and run it as many times as you can. Try to restore your stamina. If you're collecting metal monsters, then you might level up a little bit, and so you'll restore your stamina a little bit. You try to see how many times you can run it. I remember, after a while, so there's 3 levels of the scrapyard, right? There's like the easy, medium, and hard. And if you start running the hard scrapyard, you can get like a couple Metal King slimes and like 6 metal slimes all in one run. It was definitely a good way. Oh, you'd get that was it. Once a week, you'd get the key to the scrapyard. It was a scrapyard key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
I remember always trying to get my experience near to a level up when that would happen. Like, cause it was always, it happened on like a certain day or something like that. Say it was Wednesday. And I'd always make sure like Tuesday or whatever, like, hey, I need to make sure I have my experience near the next level, not quite there, because I don't want to level up the first time I run it, but I do want to level up during this, so reset my stamina, I can do it again.
Nice. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that logic too. Which again, the higher level you got, the harder it was to do.
Oh yeah, something like that. Higher scrapyard one was something like 45 stamina. Maybe the early one was only 5, and then 20, and then but it grew astronomically.
They had an easy, medium, and hard, and then like a super hard, and the difficulty spikes between each were pretty hefty.
Well, yeah, it was like metal slime to liquid metal slime to like king metal slime. Yeah. You were definitely taking on a higher class of monster there.
Yeah, and I seem to remember too composing like you'd have multiple teams, and I had like a scrapyard team. Like if I'm raiding the scrapyard, these are the guys I bring because they can kill metal guys.
Did anyone spend real money in the game?
Now this is one I think you guys both did, but I tried. Nothing I did would get them to take my money.
Mine, I did spend around $60 before my credit card just stopped working with the game's like point card system. And then I was getting some sort of error message, and there was obviously no support on it.
Yeah.
So that's about $60 is about how much I would have paid to buy a copy of a Dragon Quest game in stores. So I just kind of felt justified with that. But yeah, I spent about that much before it stopped taking my money.
What did you buy with that?
I think just more stamina or more Tombola pulls.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent money on the game too. It sucked me in, and I had to do it. Actually, I think my son pushed me into it. If so I'll blame him. But it felt like a huge waste of money. I think we paid enough to get like 4 pulls each of the Tombola, and we both got just crap. I had random pulls that got better than that, and I felt so empty inside after that, and
right.
I don't know. I was like, man, what have I done?
Yeah.
Anyways, there was definitely buyer's remorse after that one.
But then you'd see these people, like, because there's multiplayer and there's leaderboards where you could see like the top players and everything, and you'd see these people with just these like incredible luck with monsters, and like they're just these like top S rank monsters that you'd never seen anywhere else, and it's like, oh my god, how much money did you guys spend to get some of these? And when I was living in Japan, you really have to wonder how much these players were paying over the course of the release, because people were selling their Dragon Quest Monsters Super Light accounts on Mercari, the auction site. Basically like transfer of their full account with their top like S rank monsters for the equivalent of something like $10,000 US. Wow. And I often wondered if the sellers were trying to like profit or actually recoup their losses, because it was ridiculous that like the fact that they're selling like that they're selling that high, but just even the fact that like they're selling them in general was kind of nuts.
I'd never heard about accounts being sold. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then so we talked a little bit about the tombolas and like the RNG in this game. This is what killed it for me. Is that the RNG was pretty unforgivable in this. The game was very, very overtly stacked to try to get you to spend money. The tombola. Basically you roll the tombola using certain. I don't know if it wasn't stamina. It was probably some other in-game currency or something.
It was like coins or something.
Yeah.
It was gems. Yeah.
Gems.
Yeah. Gems. That's right. I'm just having flashbacks now. Stress flashbacks from the RNG. So you had the tombola. I think the super tombola, which had better monsters but probably just as bad results, and then the like special tombola, which I think you had to actually spend money to use. The RNG was awful for either of them, so your likelihood of getting something good out of the tombola, a good monster pull, it was pretty awful, which is why I used to just be so surprised at all the people on there who had these like incredible monster pulls, because even like the rare ones like the Don Moles or the you see people early on who had Dragon Lord in their party. And you don't stuff that you could only get from the super tombola, you have to like wonder how much they spent to keep pulling until they got something that good. So I think that might have been where you got these guys spending several grand to get some of these top monsters.
Yeah, I genuinely felt bad for people, that because I was the same way. I looked at these other teams. I'm like, wow, you must have spent a lot of money, to get that. Like, nobody's that lucky. I don't think so. I mean, it's it was really sad actually, and I kind of had that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You can find them all on Mercari now if you want to see who did that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So that was my whole feeling for kind of the game. Actually, is like after playing it for, I don't know how long it was out, but like maybe 6 months of playing it, I started to feel like this isn't a healthy part of my life. Like I'd just be thinking about when my stamina is going to be restored. I got to take a break at work at that time because my stamina is max, and then I can run it out, and then it'll be restored again by the time I'm done work at the end of the day. And I'm like, wow, this is definitely a good part of my life.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind in about 3 weeks when Dragon Quest of the Stars come out.
Oh yeah, how much of that style of game is gonna be in the new Quest of the Stars?
It's got to be there somewhere. They got to make their money off it somehow.
Yeah, it'll probably be like weapons based, like pay extra money for a weapon. Maybe there'll be tombolas. I'm not sure. I'll probably have some stress flashbacks from this game.
Definitely.
So, sorry, go ahead, Play.
Oh, I was gonna say, go ahead with your
what does everyone remember from the events? We talked a little bit about some of the events that they had.
And see, I remember, and I think I'm remembering the Japanese version when I first started. They had, there's a week in Japan. Is it White Week or something like that, Liam? It's their equivalent of Valentine's Day. They have maybe not, but I do remember a Valentine's Day kind of one where they had chocolate slimes.
Okay, I do remember that.
That literally, I mean, think about a chocolate-colored slime. It's just the poop emoji. It really just is. But I do remember, because for us, it came out in like August, September, October. And I think there was the Halloween one. I think they had jack-o'-lantern slimes, winter-themed stuff like snowmen, candy cane slimes, stuff like that. I just remember there were a lot of different slimes or different monsters themed to like the season or the holiday would be more prevalent. They'd have special maps that you could run, or maybe they just appeared on the regular maps more often. But yeah, they had different monsters that rotated in and out.
Yeah, the worst was if you just didn't have enough stamina or whatever coins to get that one rare monster, and it was like a holiday themed one, and you can't get it again for potentially another year.
Which we never got another year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember some of those events. I remember the Christmas one, I think, too. They all had like Santa hats on and stuff. And I think the Christmas events, there was like crazy amounts of experience given out by some of the boss monsters or something like that. But yeah, it definitely sucks if you missed some of them. I remember they started cycling Evolutionary Road into the mix about once a week or so. So once people started getting strong enough monsters through Evolution, then you needed like those fancy eggs to evolve to like the higher levels and stuff. Trying to remember the names. There's like Excelsior and Glorious Excelsior and the Beaster Egg or something like that.
Evolution was just the breeding process, right? But you had to breed with an egg.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like a recipe almost. Like you combine like a few eggs and a monster, and you get like an evolved monster. Yeah, I think there's multiple eggs or something.
I remember the pictures and like the plus sign and the
stars, right?
Yeah. You had to get the monsters to a certain level, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of like any of the Dragon Quest Monsters game. Maybe if they were like level 10 or level 20, it was a certain, like they'd get a star by their name or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that one plus a certain egg. And, if it was a D rank monster, you probably just a general, like you said, the Excelsior and the D rank monster might get you a C rank one. Whereas if you were at the S, you might need that glorious Excelsior one to get there. Which, by the way, the pun game was pretty on point with a lot of these monsters. I mean, they actually put some effort into translating into English with that Southeast Asian one.
Yeah, I wonder who did the translation for that. Does anybody know?
No idea.
I bet Dwayne knows. Anyway, we'll ask him sometime.
I remember I mentioned the Don Mole event. They had some Halloween ones where it was like the maps were kind of haunted forests and kind of like a haunted houses scattered throughout with Halloween themed monsters. And the Christmas event you mentioned with snow related monsters. The special bosses were definitely hard to recruit, and you had to play through so many times for that recruitment chance. But
yeah, that's right. That was it was pretty unforgiving for sure. Yeah, and I remember there was that. I guess we were talking about that last level that they opened up, right? There was that one time. I think they opened it up the very last level for, or at least the last level we got for just a short time. Maybe it was a couple days or just a single day, and then there was that glitch that people discovered, and it was allowing you could just keep running the level over and over again, and you get a crazy amount of gems. You just keep repeating the process, and so the game developers finally realized, oh crap, we've got a hole, we got to patch here, and they shut it down. They removed the level, and then they put out a notice that said, hey, anybody who abused this glitch and profited off of it, you're going to lose all your gems, and also you're going to lose anything you got out of the tombola that you spent those dirty gems on, I guess.
It's like the Monster Casino.
Was it? Did they just roll back those accounts like 24 hours or something like that? This sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think they did, and I think there was a couple people who got like genuinely screwed that way because they didn't realize that they were activating the glitch. They only did it once, and then they didn't spend those gems on something, or I can't recall how it happened, but and those people lost whatever they got in their tombola poll, even though they weren't trying to be. Anyway, yeah. But I guess they also put out a notice the next day or something and said, hey, if you were one of the honest people who played this level, didn't abuse that glitch, here's 10,000 gems for you, which I think was a huge amount of gems. It was enough for like 4 super tombola polls. I didn't hear about the glitch. I might have tried to exploit it if I'd heard about it in time, but I didn't. So I got lucky, and that's how I got my sorrow, I guess, who stayed with me for the rest of the game. Yeah,
I totally forgot about that until you mentioned it. I was late to pick up on the glitch, so I neither benefited nor I wasn't penalized anyway. I did get the 10k gems for being completely ignorant of the glitch, but I think the first I actually heard of it was when they were saying like, here's 10,000 gems. I was like, what the hell is this for? What's going on?
Yeah. You know what? And I might have been done by that time. I remember hearing about it. I remember people posting about it on the Den, but I think I might have pieced out with the game by that time. So, darn, should have stuck around. Although I would have abused it. I mean, who am I kidding? That's just. If I see that exploit or somebody mentions it, I'm going to do it. What's the harm? So. Before we wrap up Superlight, anything else that you guys want to say about this? Anything else, maybe lessons to be learned for Dragon Quest of the Stars coming up in a few weeks?
Just be careful what you spend on it. These games have a way of just pulling money out of you because you want to keep playing, and there's this competitive... I haven't played Quest of the Stars, the Japanese version, so I don't know if there's any kind of player versus player stuff. There was in Superlight, and I had I had a lot of fun with it, but it was also very frustrating because a lot of the people I would play would just wipe the floor with me. I think I only won maybe like one battle out of like 20 that I played PvP. I played Pendy actually, and he would routinely wipe the floor with me. His bosses are like way better than my A team. But yeah, there was this one time that I think I must have played like a noob, and I actually won, and I was like, oh my god. I must now quit. I've won one. But yeah, getting back to like the spending of money, if there is anything like that, just be careful. You don't want to be one of those people who's like spending all the money you could be used like saving for stuff like life. It's great to support the game. I would just say if you're going to do that, put a limit on what you want to spend, so you're not, having to sell your account later.
Yeah, I think that's wise advice. I mean, I had a lot of fun with this game. I had some good memories, but I was definitely glad when it ended, just because I could, I just didn't have to play it anymore. And it's a really weird game that just kind of grabs you, I guess. So I was glad when it was done, but it's also sad because, if we want to go back and play it again, I guess we could try to jump into the Japanese version, but, we can't play it anymore. And it's always frustrating when there's kind of a Dragon Quest thing in history that just gets lost to the ethereal mists of time because, it was online only or something like this that goes away. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and I remember this. One of the fond memories I have of this is the first game that my oldest son played, because he would have been around 2 when it came out. He would just turn 2, and so he would like sit on my lap on the couch, and for the most part I think you couldn't select commands in battle, could you? You could give tactics but not specific commands, or
you could give commands. Yeah, one of the tactics was do what you're told, or whatever that's called.
All right.
Yeah. Wasn't the battle like you're tapping?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, oh, that's right. You could tap the monster you wanted to attack if you weren't going to use your spells. And spells you always wanted to save for the bosses at the end. So yeah, if I was in an area I knew that we could get through, I'd have my 2-year-old. I'm just like, just click on the guy you want him to attack. Just click. So at age 2, he could sit there and play, and he wouldn't have to hold a controller. He didn't have to select a monster from a lineup. He was just tapping along. So yeah, for a couple months he would have fun just doing that. That's where he learned about slimes and stuff. So that's one of the good memories I got from that game. And unlike you two, I didn't spend a penny on it. But I remember.
Clearly the wisest of us.
Yeah, I think my last memory of that game was just frustration over the RNG. I quit early. I quit before it ended.
Yeah, me too.
And then I think I ended up picking up the Futurama Worlds of Tomorrow game, and that was my next gacha tapping game, which followed a lot of the same kind of concepts. And then I played that through just after my son was born, because I remember getting into fights with my wife over me playing that game when I should be helping with household stuff. But yeah, then that game went through some upgrades, and they upgraded the battle system and made it way more complicated and unnecessarily so I ended up quitting that one too.
All right, well, that's enough about Super Light. Gave a super quick overview of that. The next game, a little less obscure, but definitely another one-off in the Dragon Quest community, and one that you can't really easily get around to playing nowadays. But Dragon Quest Swords. This came out for the Nintendo Wii, and if you want to hear about a recent playthrough of it and get more in depth with the story and everything, our friends over at DQM podcast, they just played this game, I want to say October, November, and they played the entire game on one visit together in the fall. The guys live a couple states apart, but see each other a few times a year, and when they got together, they played the game over an entire weekend. They didn't quite beat it at that time, but hearing about them and talking about dad bods and getting in shape to play it, I know both of them talked about how their shoulder hurt, and they were just like, no, I don't want to play anymore, but we've only got 2 more hours. We got to keep going. So, yeah, DQFM has a pretty funny episode about playing this, but starting with my memories of the game, I actually bought a Wii specifically for this game. I mean, I remember I had friends that went and waited at Best Buy or Old Circuit City and spent the night there in the cold to buy their Wii. Whatever, it's Florida, it wasn't cold, but they spent the night to buy the Wii, and I'm like, it's a Wii, whatever. I've got my DS. There's no Dragon Quest game. And then pretty quickly thereafter, we found out there was going to be a Dragon Quest game. I know it didn't come out at launch or even quickly thereafter, but within like a month of the Wii coming out, I was determined, I need to get a Wii. I need to get a Wii. I need to get a Wii. God knows when this Dragon Quest is coming out. So I got my Wii on eBay with an extra controller for almost like the exact cost. I didn't pay a penny over. It was something that I just happened to be on. It was listed for 5 minutes, and I was like, boom, buy it now. Someone had bought the Wii and was like, screw this. I don't want to swing this around for the Wii Sports. So I think I had it and like Wii Sports and nothing else for 6, 8, 10 months. But yeah, the Dragon Quest has really driven my console purchases. And this one specifically, this was one of the ones I went out and got the console way before there was even a hint that it was coming out over here.
See, I think I actually bought the Wii for Wii Sports.
Yeah.
The tennis.
It's kind of been worth it.
The tennis and the bowling and eventually golf.
Was fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that actually got me into sports.
Oh, is that right? That's awesome. Yeah, I got my Wii way later in the cycle, so this game had been out for a long time, and I don't think you could really. It was hard to find in stores when I got it. So yeah, I was definitely late to the party. Totally missed the boat on this one, but when I've learned about it, like I said, my lifelong dream was to play a game where I could slash slimes for real. So I had to have it. And I put out kind of some feelers on the Dragon's Den and said, hey, if anyone finds me a copy of this game, please, 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 I really need to play it. And Dragon's Den member Obi-Shan found a copy and he shipped it to me along with a plush slime. So Obi-Shan, wherever you are, may the goddess shine her light upon you. That was awesome.
And so the play control for this,
I
know some people didn't like the battle mechanics after a while. I never had a problem. I mean, I didn't get through all the bonus bosses. I think there were like 4 or 5 at the end, and I did a few, but then I didn't do their super versions. I was okay with the slashing and the shield button and how to heal. Granted, I'm sure I had a learning curve all over there, but that never strikes me as something that really was annoying to me. Then again, I think this is a game I went through, I beat it, I put in like 30 hours, and I was done. It's not a game I really went back to. But man, walking around in the towns was what I remember. What it was good at was what it was supposed to be, a game on rails where you're hacking and slashing. That was fine. When you had to like walk around, like go into the church, and because it was like Dragon Quest VIII, at least in the town. You just walked around and you did whatever.
Yeah,
but man, that sucked.
Yeah, so the movement, I had a real problem with the play control on this one, just because they crammed it all into one Wii remote. So not only like the slashing and the shield motion, but also moving around, you're using your thumb on the control pad. I thought it was a real wasted opportunity when they could have used the nunchuck, which had a control stick on it. And if you think of the way Metroid Prime for the Wii, the remake or the port that they did to the Wii worked. You use the Wii remote to kind of aim around the camera and to fire, and you use the nunchuck to move around. So it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like you could even press a button on the nunchuck to use the shield if you wanted to, but that's not the way they did it. They crammed it all into one controller, so now you're awkwardly trying to move your thumb and then slash your sword when you need it, and then trigger the shield all with one hand. The like you said, Platy, the movement was really awkward on that thumb pad. It felt like you were kind of, I mean, you were playing a modern game at the time, but it felt like you were playing like an old Wolfenstein. It was just like very, like the just like back and forth, like straight line movement, but it's like a 3D, it's a 3D landscape. So it just felt very, very strange.
It's funny, I actually I really liked the one-handed control kind of thing. Like I would play and I would have a beer in my other hand, and I never had to. I could drink the whole time while playing, and I just assumed that was why the play controls were difficult and stuff, and why I was missing half of the projectiles being thrown at me because I was 3 or 4 beers in at that time. But
Nice.
yeah, so that was kind of a convenience, I thought. But yeah, like yeah. Anyway, playing a 3D game on rails is like going on a ride at Universal Studios where you see all the amazing things and you want to get over there, but you can't. You're stuck on the rail. You can't get off the ride, can't go touch the shark or whatever.
That's right. It was like you were on a rail, like you were just going through a ride. You're going down a straight line path. If you want to go backwards, you could like walk backwards or I think turn around.
Oh, I think it was just walk backwards. You couldn't turn. It was always that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's even cheesier.
Yeah, exactly. It made it easier for my kids to play the game, and they really, really wanted to. I don't know, Platty, or even Liam, if your kids have like, I mean, they see you slashing with your sword. Like, yeah, you want to play that. My kids wanted to play it as soon as they saw it. So, and they could mostly. At least they could move around and stuff. But anyway,
I haven't introduced him to swords yet, but he's almost 3. I do feel bad because like my friends will come over and we'll be playing like River City Girls, and that is just incredibly violent, incredible cartoon violence. Like teenagers just beating the hell out of each other, and here we are playing it in front of my 2-year-old who's watching intently. I just kind of feel bad about that, but I do want to replay this game because I never actually finished this one. So yeah, I do want to go back to it at some point. And like Platty said, my Wii is not hooked up, but I do have it here, so sometime soon.
Yeah,
I gave my Wii to my sister, 2 years ago, without even putting this in and showing the kids. So I got to ask her. They just got to switch, so maybe they are done with the Wii. I know that was their only console. They're not very big gamers. So when she asked me for it, I was like, well, I've got the PS4 and the this and the this and whatever. Just take the Wii. That's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, whatever you can do to get that game again, because it's fun and the kids will love it, I think. I know, like, for my kids, like, the biggest challenge was anything where you have to, like, mark a spot on the screen to focus your slash and then slash there. Like, they had a brutal time with that. So if those bodkin archers or whatever are shooting they're getting hit, or they have to pull out the shield and try to block 2 things at once. And
or the archers would come out and shoot you both at the same time from different angles of the screen, and you have to like pick which one you want to hit you and which one to block.
Yeah, or you try to get a slash that gets them both, but the kids would never get that. That was
How would you slash and use the shield at the same time when it's all one controller?
Yeah, no, you pick a focus that's halfway between the two and slash in the direction so you get both at the same time. Yeah, it was tricky. Huh. It was tricky. Yeah, and it just gets worse as you go on. I think some of the mirror bosses, you had these crazy fast moves that you had to like practice and coordinate to pull it off. So I guess you said you didn't finish it. Platty, did you do the mirror bosses and stuff like that?
I beat the final game. And how many mirror bosses were there? Were there 4? Do I remember that like room correctly?
Yeah, I think there was 4, and then there was like upgraded versions of them and stuff.
Okay, then I think I beat the 4. It was the upgraded versions. I was like, F this. I'm like, I spent enough time doing like you said, you got to learn the moves. It's basically like choreography. I choreographed how to beat those 4, but when it came to the upgraded versions, I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I spent a lot of time on it. Like I said, I was totally obsessed with this game. So I did all those mirror bosses, and I had to unlock payback mode. I heard about payback mode, and I was like, what is this? So I guess if you beat, the big bad at the very end, you can do. There's a new game plus feature where you can start the game with like the ultimate sword, the Deathbringer sword that the bad guy uses, I guess. And it's just crazy powerful. So you're just plowing through people. But your shield is reduced to a teaspoon. You get that welcome teaspoon. So best sword, no defense. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
That's cool. At least they give you like a new type of challenge. Could you get could you upgrade your shield, or it's like permanently like that?
No, yeah, you could upgrade it, and you could upgrade it pretty quick. It's just like the first level, you only have the teaspoon, and then after you've got some gold, you can finally buy like a pot lid or something.
Yeah, the pot lid. Cypher stick of the shield world.
Right.
So what does everyone think about Florette? one of my distinctive memories of this game is the French accent from Florette shouting "Oui, blade, oui," to almost the annoying degree as you're fighting. You're just fighting over and over again every battle. "Oui, blade, oui."
Well, there was only a very limited number of people that you could bring with you, right? There was maybe 3 or 4 that could join you. That could do special stuff, cast a spell for you or whatever while you were going through. And she was the healer. She was a healer. And I always love a healer. I mean, I'll take a healer with me any day and just slash a few extra times instead of bringing along a magician. So she was practically she was the most useful one for my playstyle. And then also, I mean, she was basically just hot Jessica with a French accent, and she was wearing the latest Victoria's Secret lingerie from the Dragon Quest world. So
yeah, but Jessica's already hot Jessica.
Oh no!
Hotter
Jessica doesn't have hotter Jessica.
Oh, okay, all right.
Remember that meme we were looking at earlier today, where Jessica was an 8, Florette was a 10.
Yeah, Florette. She definitely makes an impact. She's memorable for her hotness. Her sexy voice.
Yeah,
and
we'll have to slide something in right about here.
Oh la la! Forgive me, Blade. It took me longer than I was expecting to prepare myself. Do it, Blade! Do it now! How did I know this was your house? Well, I did not think you lived in a shop or at the church. Do it like you mean it! Oui! My hero! I did not hear you correctly. It almost sounded like you said no. Yeah! You are so heavy. But I won't let go of you, Blade. Not ever. It is so hot. Incroyable. Still there are such fearsome monsters in the world, even after the defeat of Xiphos.
And her sheer usefulness in the game. Like you said, she's the healer. I talked about the post game. The very end boss basically demands that you bring her with you. You need to have that spell Magna Shield to survive, and Claymore can't do that, so he's out. Florette has multi-heal, full heal, and I think Anlace only had like mid-heal or something like that. So yeah, you need her. She's the healer, and she's hot. She's always standing backwards with her back to you and looking over her shoulder, and she's got that short skirt. Like, I don't know. And anyway,
when we talk about what we just heard, which is the sound clip of Florette, because it does sound a little pornographic. A little bit like, so some of the sound clips start with her just out of breath, and it was
definitely done on purpose. Those things didn't just accidentally.
I'd have to imagine the voice actress like in the studio, like, what kind of game is this again? What are you having me read here?
Yeah, it's a kid's game.
The double entendres.
Yeah.
I remember I went through an exercise of pulling a bunch of the resources out of this game, including the sounds. And so back when, obviously I didn't have a good work ethic when I was younger. So I was doing this kind of stuff at work, and I pulled all the sound files out, including her voice. And I started playing them back to see if, what is this? I wanted to name the files and sort them and stuff. And I played the Florette ones. And like you said, it's pornographic. I had my sound up. People are looking. I really don't have any explanation for that. So anyway, it's
So this was actually so you mentioned the voice actress. This was Joe Wyatt. She's credited in like 97 different things here. We'll have to link this to her. Oh my gosh, she's one of the Octonauts. That really makes me. That's one of my kids' favorite TV shows.
Wow, boy. Which one?
She's Tweak, and she was on 122 episodes as Tweak. So she's done Horizon Zero Dawn, Star Wars: Old Republic. My goodness, she's got a lot of different. Mass Effect 3. Wait, oh my gosh. Isn't the TV series Olivia about a pig? Yes, she was Olivia the pig.
Wow, that's amazing.
She was in Ni no Kuni, Bob the Builder. Oh my gosh, she's done a lot.
She's Bob the Builder?
She was not Bob the Builder, no. Surprise.
Scratch? That scarecrow thing. Yeah.
I don't know who Scratch was, and we didn't get into Bob the Builder with my kids, but this is pretty funny. Yeah, she's done a lot. Heck, that was way early. She got her pornographic start, and then Like many young female actresses.
Yeah, she got the Bob the Builder gig right after Dragon Quest Swords.
So this is pretty funny.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Yep, she's definitely got a lot of allure. Actually remembered, I was talking about how Obi-Sean sent me a copy of the game. One of the things he wanted in exchange for that was that I would rip some Fleurette graphics from the game and send them to him. So I obviously happily obliged, but he clearly was into Fleurette. You know, one of the things that kind of creeped me out when I ripped the Fleurette model out of the game was, you know, she didn't have all of her gear on, I guess. She's normally wearing like a choker around her neck. And without it, her neck is like freakishly long. So I should pull up some pictures and put it on the den after. But yeah, like long neck Fleurette, it's really weird, like a Brontosaurus or something. And before you ask, no, I didn't rotate the model to see what kind of underwear she was wearing. I think you guys talked about some.
No, I'm thinking it.
Okay. Well, I did have to check what kind of tread she had on her boots, though. But that's totally different.
She obviously it was granny panties. I mean, she was going to become a nun.
Oh man, I'm sorry for taking it there.
Speaking of cosplay, though, she was a character in Dragon Quest IX. She was one of the special guests that you get from like the DLC. So she shows up in the Quester's Rest in the Stornway Inn elevator, and you can go and bring your party and get clothing from her as gifts. She doesn't take it off. She is spare.
I seem to remember you could change your underwear in that game, right? There was like some kind of... Anyways, yeah, so you could whatever underwear you want for Fleurette in Dragon Quest IX, you could pick it.
Yeah.
I think she shows up in the Pioneer Town in Dragon Quest IV too. Like she does. I don't think she visits your town, but there's a way you could change the sprites of people that you pick to go out for the chance encounters or whatever they call that.
Okay.
And she was one of the ones you could make it look like Fleurette. So.
Oh, I don't think I ever noticed that.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. No, I didn't notice that either. So we had put some stuff that we were going to on the den. Obviously, we talk about the show a little bit before we do it. We always kind of talk about the games. Don't tell everybody who our secret guest is going to be. Not that it's a huge secret or anything. But we got some talking points from some members on the den, and one of them was that Fleurette always calls you Blade after you meet her. But Liam, either you or King Zenith, one of you guys put in here that she could call you other stuff.
I had thought that, but I wasn't sure about that because I again have not played this game in a long time. I thought there was a possibility that other names were possible. Does that ring a bell at all, King Zenith? But I only chose Blade because I thought it was the best one.
Right. Yeah, I think most people do that, and Blade is the coolest one for sure. But yeah, she gives you a choice. I actually noticed this again when I was ripping the sound graphics out of the game because the voice actor, whatever her name was, she had to record the lines over and over for each of these different people. So, you know,
wow.
Yeah.
So there's like a wee hacker wee out there.
Yeah. Wee rusty wee. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. The other names she could call you, you could if you said Blade's no good, she kind of puts up a bit of a fuss and says, okay, fine. Well, what about Hacker? What about Rusty? I think she also, another one was Chevalier or something like that. Chopper or Mon Ami. I think those were all the options. So yeah, 5 or so there. Huh. Yeah, it's kind of like naming the Saber Cub in Dragon Quest V, right? So if you don't pick Saber, there's cycles through a bunch.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of neat things in this game. Even like I guess the names of the swords are all the names of characters are all sword references or knife references, like Claymore. Even Anlace, I had to look it up, but it's some kind of sword. I think Fleurette is something to do with fencing. It's like a thing you put on the end of your fencing foil or something like that. Dao, Araval, these are all sword types.
They are. I actually looked them all up the other day. I meant to drop images into our Google Doc that we kind of planned the show out on, but you are correct. I looked all those up the other day, and they are all, long knives, daggerish kind of stuff. I think the Dao or the Araval has a big curve at the end of it. I was looking these up. So, that's something I never really thought of playing the game.
Yeah, for sure. And, I felt there was a reference I was missing with the level names because, there was, like Galantine Glades and Erendite Heights. Especially Erendite Heights, I'm like, what? That's supposed to be... I know that's a pun or something. I don't know what it is. Caliburn Cave, I just didn't get it. But I looked it all up at some point, and they're all from King Arthur legend. So I guess Arendite is the sword of Sir Lancelot. Galantine is Gawain's sword. I don't know who that is, but someone from King Arthur, I guess. And
Sir Gawain, yeah.
Yeah. Seacass.
Caliburn was that in Heroes? Was that the name of the castle town in Heroes?
Unsure. Okay.
I might be thinking of, maybe like Caliber or something like that.
Could be. It's one of my deepest shames that I haven't played that game yet. So
yeah, my memory's escaping me. I haven't played that game in a while either.
No, it doesn't. It's not popping up on the wiki that way. I mean, Caliburn Caves is in the Dragon Quest Swords. It might be.
Yeah,
something similar. Yeah,
just sounds similar.
Right, and then there was the mirror gimmick for naming things. Everything was like backwards. I think there's the Roram mask is just like the word mirror backwards. Yeah, and monster names. There was Salta, which is Atlas backwards. Durgib was Big Red, and one of the swords I think was called the Red Nisadner or something like that, which is backwards is Rend Asunder. So yeah. Anyway, that was kind of an annoying thing, but they sprinkled that throughout the whole game.
Huh.
And then there's the pink masked shop owner guy.
Oh, always love some pink mask guys.
Oh, you talking about the bull-headed?
Yeah, tuffy guy.
Oh, yeah. When the pink mask, it reminds me of Dave from 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. He had some interesting lines. It is a he, I think. Yeah, sure it is. So. How hard would you like it, love? Come and play with me again, or I'll rip your bloody arms off. Or, anyways.
The music in this game too is we talked a little bit a couple of podcasts ago. It's Minami Matsume who did the music for like the original Mega Man and some of Mega Man 2, I think. She did some arrangement of some of Koichi Sugiyama's music, and then some of it was just her own, but it sounded like that kind of style. So it's really cool. I was talking to Mishi at one time at a convention. We were talking about Matsume's work on this game, and we both agreed that it was like she would be an awesome replacement if Sugiyama retires or anything happens, and they need to pass the torch. I don't know if that's already in the works to somebody, but Minami Matsume did an amazing job on the music for this game. I thought that was worth mentioning again.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, since this was a console game, I probably had the music on for this. It's a lot of the mobile gaming. I'm doing something else at the same time, but until you mentioned it, I think it was with the episode with Dwayne or something like that, I never had any idea from my untrained ear that it was somebody different.
I feel like I always kind of noticed a difference with the music. It did have kind of a different feel, I thought, but I liked it a lot, and I'd be curious to know if she's done any contributed any tracks or anything to any other Dragon Quest games. I can't remember if you mentioned that in the other podcast or not, but yeah.
I don't think so. I think this might have been a one-off.
It's too bad.
Wait a minute.
She's got a bunch of other franchises under her belt, though. But she did the music for Shovel Knight, which is like a very, very Mega Man sounding type music to it. Mm-hmm. Really, really catchy kind of.
This is her only Dragon Quest one.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder how old she is, because she was doing what?
55.
Oh. I mean, she was doing, like you said, she did the music for the original Mega Man. So, I mean, that goes back a ways. Yep, she is 55. Skype was hiding that age under the Skype thing. She was born on Christmas. Look at that. That'll win you a trivia quest at some point.
Yeah, her solo album came out in Japan on the day of my wedding in Japan.
Oh, look at that.
A little personal trivia for myself.
So, I know, King Zenith, you wanted to talk about one of your favorite chapters or bosses, because I know Liam and I don't remember much, but I do remember I loved the grind on this. As much as Liam loves grinding his monsters up to level 40 in Dragon Quest Monsters, I ran these levels over and over and over again, which I mean you had to do to get, because I mean there really wasn't much more to the game than go into this one place and go to the end, and then you warped out and you could do it again and again. But I really had fun going over and over again, finding those little secret things. Like some of them had the paths that diverged left or right, and But doing that and just to get the higher ranks, because at the end of every level, you would get a rank, C, B, A, S. And I think you got items based upon that, or maybe just the money or something was based upon that.
Yeah,
I would do
think
those for over and over
right.
again.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think there was a lucky bag or something like that in level 2. So if you I don't know if that was just like the first time you completed or you had to go a certain path to find it, but yeah, and I think your rank determined what kind of how many and what type of alchemy ingredients you'd get, or what do they call it? Sword tempering ingredients.
Correct.
Yeah. It was super fun to run those levels over and over, and definitely my favorite was the mirror tower. Climbing up higher and higher and stuff. A lot of good monsters in there, and the boss was, I guess, what is his name? Grossmesser. So one super fun boss to fight. Of course, I'm partial to archdemons, so no surprise that I like him. But yeah, he's got like a bunch of mini demons that like shoot at you and stuff and different spells. I don't know. He was just pretty fun. So, and I think the weirdest chapter was that portal to the mirror world where like you're just kind of standing there and things fly at you and you try to hit them before they hit you. So anyway,
I remember that. That was a little psychedelic. Talking about Earthbound earlier,
That's right. It's weird after 5 beers too, so it's.
Oh, that's pretty good. They had the metal slimes in that one too, didn't they? That level.
Yeah, but they were notoriously hard to hit, I found. But yeah, you could grind on those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the mirror bosses was a Metal King slime or whatever. So if you really wanted to grind post game, like that was the way to go.
Nice. So what do you remember about the sword tempering? Because I remember you could do it, but I don't really remember specifics about it. I mean, I love doing it, trying to move down the chain, and I couldn't remember if you could get all of the swords at any one time, or was there a point where you kind of had to decide which way to go down the sword tree? Or
yeah, like I think you start the game with like a rusty sword, or no, the rusty sword goes up to the Metal King, but some crappy sword. And then as you kind of go through, you basically have to pick a path and follow it. But later on in the game, if you've got some extra cash, you can buy one of those crappy swords again and go up a different path. So yeah, you can go down all 3 paths of the sword tempering tree if you want. And I think they end up with the Sword of Kings at the end of one of them, the Zenithian sword at another one, and the Dragovian sword for the 3rd path. So yeah, you could end up with each of those 3 if you were so committed. And I think tempering down those different paths gave you different master strokes and stuff. So yeah, I guess it was kind of to your advantage to unlock more different master strokes. Yeah, the Zenithian sword was the one where you could get the absolute 0 master stroke, which was, I don't know, once you have that, that's like the only one you seem to need. It was very overpowered or something like that. So it was didn't really need the other paths. If you went Zenithian sword, you're pretty well set. And then Metal King sword, and there was a special sword that you could get the Dragon Warrior sword, I guess, as well. I can't remember how to get that. And then they had that mirror sword that they kind of force upon you. There's that one spot in the game where if you don't switch to the crappy mirror sword, then you can't do the master stroke and make the fire thing happen to give you access to one of the levels there. So yeah, I don't remember if you remember that, but yeah.
I mean, this was something that, the more we talk about it now, I'm definitely going to have my sister at least bring the Wii this summer. Our family gets together for a couple of weeks over the summer, and the grandkids, my parents' grandkids, my 2 kids, and my niece and nephew. This is something that I think would be interesting for a night at least to throw in there and try to have the kids play a little bit just for fun.
Was this the first Dragon Quest game to have that kind of tempering system that eventually would later go into like 10 and 11?
Well, I mean, you had the alchemy before it, at least, because this came out about 3 years after 8.
Right. Yeah, 8 would have been the first for alchemy, but is this like the kind of the idea of like the master stroke and the forge and everything, sword tempering? Was this the first to kind of have that? I wonder.
I didn't see it before this game.
Yeah, I can't even, and I don't know about 10, so.
10 definitely has it because the same music that shows up in 11 for sword tempering shows up in 10. And I think Nawaria mentioned on our podcast that they had that, or some equivalent of like sword tempering or like weapon alchemy in the game.
That's cool.
So, King Zenith, you were saying that there's a reference to swords in Rocket Slime?
Yeah, that's right. So, for anyone who's a Rocket Slime fan, as you fight more and more of those different tanks, each tank had a design and they had like a little catchphrase that went with it. And one of them was a DQ sword shout out. I think the tank was called DQ Swords, the revolution is coming. We, and it was spelled like WEE. Yeah, so I love those. I don't know, the different tank designs and everything. I think it was a Lethal Armor from the other Dragon Quest games. So love those tank names. They're all at the Dragon's Den. I think my favorite is like Fortnite, not too weak. Classic.
I liked Chrono Twigger.
Oh yeah.
Giant tree.
Oh, that's good.
So, with swords being a really different idea for the series, what other kind of outside the box ideas would you like to see for a Dragon Quest experiment? Would you like to see the Dragon Quest franchise experiment with?
And this is pretty funny because of what we talked about earlier. And we set up these show notes about a week ago. And what do I type in a week ago? Strategy, tactical, RPG. And now what do we get with DQ Tact on the thing on the mobile coming out in Japan? But there was some discussion on the Dragon's Den this week about why are they calling it DQ Tact? Why not DQ Tactics? Why not go give it the full name? I mean, come on. I'd still like to see a DQ Tactics with, the make it like a Dragon Quest Heroes style game where you bring back a bunch of heroes from different games and have them be your strategy people. I have very rarely played strategy or tactical RPG games, but I would definitely give it a try for this. I mean, we had the old DSi, was the DQ Wars game that came out years ago, and
yeah, I remember that. I never got to play it, but it was kind of like Advance Wars, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was you were on maybe like a 6x6 grid. It wasn't very big, and the battles lasted pretty quickly, and you could pick a couple different monsters to go with you. I don't think there was more than a dozen monsters. I don't even think there was a dozen monsters total in the game. So it was like $3, $5, and you can still get it on the, I think even with the 3DS, you can buy it on the store. I was playing it recently on my 3DS, and recently, I think about a year ago when one of the other podcasts brought it up, but I think Puff Puff Hour brought it up, and I logged on, and I was able to get on my Nintendo account, and sure enough, re-download it on my thing. It was still there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, at least a year ago.
They put it back because I remember a bunch of years ago, like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, trying to like find it, like finding out about it late and trying to find it, and then I couldn't. But if it was
definitely
a year
have to take a look at that.
Yeah, maybe it's back up.
Or I mean, I wonder if it was just because I never.
You had previously downloaded it?
I had previously downloaded it, and when I bought my new 3DS XL, I did the whole system transfer. It took like 2 hours to wirelessly send everything from my original 3DS to that one. So maybe that's why I still had it. So, I mean, I can still play it. I wonder, I'm trying to look at it here. I mean, I don't necessarily see it on the Nintendo store, but
I'd have to charge my 3DS. It's been a while.
That's a good question. The other thing I'd like to see, because there's been other series that have done this, kind of like a dungeon crawler, like the Etrian Odyssey. And that could be a party-based game, too, where you bring back some old Dragon Quest heroes for some good old first-person dungeon crawling, going through a maze type thing.
Yeah, like the grottos in DQ9?
Yeah, but more with the old first-person view, where you're literally going grid square by grid square and seeing what's in front of you.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I'm a big Etrian Odyssey fan, so...
I'd definitely give that a shot. I think, another style of game, I don't think this would work for a mainline because someone would be tarred and feathered if they did this, but like an action RPG like Secret of Mana or something like that. I think that would be a fun one I would like to try as a spin-off or something like that. Would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that Trials of Mana remake because I loved that game. I played that fan translation for Seiken Densetsu 3 like so many times in college, like just over and over again. Because if you choose different character combinations, you get different end bosses, and there's at least 3 of them.
Yeah, I seem to remember at least 3 as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good idea. I'd love to see them do a Mana style game in the Dragon Quest series or something to that effect.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. They've tried a lot. It's amazing how many different kinds they've tried lately, but. Yeah, it's. I think just a few more different types would be kind of cool. So
yeah,
give it a shot.
Cool.
I mean, if history tells us anything, eventually they will. There'll be something.
And I really do think that this Swords game was the precursor to a kind of VR experience, and that's gonna be big. I'm sure it'll be out in Japan first, obviously, but like it'll be big in Japan and then eventually kind of make it over here. It already started. You're already starting to see VR stuff in malls and at conventions and stuff. I don't know anyone who has an Oculus, but yeah, we have one at work that are like. One of our creative team has it, and we can go like and check it out. And I've done some demos with some of the folks from Unity, where we're in the office, and a couple other like mobile augmented reality companies come in occasionally, and it's cool. I'd love to see what they could do more with the Dragon Quest in VR, because I think there's a lot of potential there for that to be the next big Dragon Quest spin-off.
That would definitely be amazing.
That's something I definitely would buy like an Oculus for.
Me too. I'd sell my firstborn. Oh, he's going to listen to this.
There it is on the podcast forever.
But will he get 2 hours into the podcast and hear that?
You're right.
Yeah, he probably fell asleep after the first 5 minutes.
He'll just skip ahead to the end.
You're like, wait a minute, I've already heard the whole first hour. I know my dad. All right, so anything else we want to say about Dragon Quest Swords here? Any other memories of the game? Or
I just like the voice acting. I like that all the bosses and stuff yell stuff at you while you're fighting them.
Right, yeah. I guess that reminds me of the womanizing father. That was always something that stuck out to me. He's always at the pub and, don't tell your mom about stuff. So yeah, that's it was good voice acting for sure. Yeah.
And at least with Florette, they got somebody who actually made a career of this. So at the time, even had a career about it. So yeah, they didn't pull punches on that one, at least in that department. Alrighty, so I guess we'll bring our Dragon Quest Swords discussion to an end, and that pretty much brings this episode of Slime Time to an end. We do want to thank King Zenith for joining us to talk about some of the more obscure DQ games.
Thanks so much, King Zenith.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
You might have noticed that the only time we mention Patreon on our podcast is when we say we don't use Patreon. We're just longtime fans that want to speak out about the game series we know and love so much. If you do have some money, though, that you would like to donate, consider sliding on over to the Dragon's Den at www.woodus.com/den and click on support the site. Woodus has owned and maintained the Dragon's Den for over 20 years, and I'm sure he would appreciate any donation, large or small. Or you can use his affiliate links he's got there for pretty much any Dragon Quest game, from Dragon Quest 7 3DS through Dragon Quest 11S, all the ones in between, and hopefully a fraction of those sales will go to support the Den.
And if you're an advertiser and you're looking for a cool new podcast to spend lots of ad revenue on, reach out to us at slimetimepodcast@gmail.com.
Oh man, the first email we get from you will be our first email we get from anyone.
That's true. We will have to actually check that address, just in case actually people do follow that and actually send us something. So if you have any questions or comments for us, you can find us on Twitter at Plattym3 or at Riamu or hit us up both simultaneously at DQ Slime Time.
King Zenith, is there any way that people can get a hold of you?
Sure, yeah. I'm on Twitter at King Zenith Den, Gmail, kingzenithden@gmail.com, and YouTube as well, King Zenith Den, or at the Dragon's Den.
Yes, of course. All of us you can find on the Dragon's Den. We do have a thread that we start for every new show. So consider joining in those DQ discussions at the Dragon's Den forums. We're one of the few remaining forums, any forums still around. Everybody's on Discord now. But you can find the Dragon's Den from the forums at the main page at www.woodus.com/forums. I know I'm always posting there, keeping people up to date on what I'm playing and what's coming out. Heck, that's how I found about DQ Tact the other day when it dropped. So thanks to everyone that made this podcast possible, like Brian, aka Woodus, for his support of the series over the past 20 years and this podcast, and for keeping the Dragon's Den's lights on.
And thanks to Amanda Lepre and the Descendants of Erdrick for allowing us to use their music for our podcast. Descendants of Erdrick is a video game cover band from Austin, Texas. If you like what you've heard, check them out in their most recent album, Advent, at www.descendants descendantsoferdrick.com or on Twitter at @doferdrick, or go see their band leader Amanda Lepre live on tour as a guitarist for Andrew WK.
And of course, our thanks, as always, to Dwayne Bullock, our wonderful graphic artist and Dragon Quest fan, for making the awesome artwork cover for this podcast. Dwayne was on the original iteration of the Slime Time podcast, and back on episode, I think it was 2 or 3. You can check out more of his work at Dwayne Art on Instagram or his website at dwayneBullockArt.bigcartel.com.
And if you're looking for more DQ podcasts, check out our earlier episodes on Dragon's Den, Anchor FM, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and more. Please also check out our fellow Dragon Quest podcasts available like Puff Puff Hour and Dragon Quest FM.
Bye, everyone.
DQ Slime Time, slamming off.